The Italian Wars, 1494–1559, a dark tale of power struggles and bloodshed. The Italian Wars, spanning from 1494 to 1559, were a series of brutal and bloody conflicts that tore apart the Italian peninsula. In a land once celebrated for its artistic achievements, incredible architecture, and vibrant culture, the Italian Wars marked an era of violence, shifting alliances, and ruthless pursuit of power. These wars were not just battles between armies, they were also about the survival of powerful families, the rise and fall of kings, the protection of vast empires, and the dominance of foreign powers on Italian soil. Italy during this period wasn't a unified nation. Instead, it was divided into numerous city-states such as Milan, Venice, Florence, and the Papal States, each with its own interests and ambitions. This division made the region a perfect battleground for the larger European powers, especially France, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire, who sought to control Italy for its wealth, strategic position, and influence. The seeds of the Italian Wars were planted in 1494, when King Charles VIII of France, driven by the desire to expand his kingdom, marched into Italy. His aim was to conquer the Kingdom of Naples, which at the time was under the control of the Kingdom of Aragon, a Spanish kingdom. The French had their eyes set on Italian territory, and Charles believed he could easily assert his dominance in the region. The invasion was a disaster for Italy. As Charles advanced through the peninsula, the fragmented Italian city-states failed to unite against the common enemy. Some cities, like Florence, were too busy with their own political issues to resist. Others, like Milan, initially aligned themselves with Charles, seeing an opportunity to weaken their rivals. This lack of unity allowed Charles to march unopposed to Naples in 1495, capturing it with relative ease. However, the French victory came at a high price. While Charles's conquest of Naples appeared to be a triumph, it set off a chain of events that would plunge Italy into decades of bloodshed. Other powers in Europe, most notably Spain, were not content with a French presence on the Italian peninsula. As a result, Italy quickly became the epicenter of foreign intervention. After Charles VIII's invasion, the Kingdom of Naples became a central point of conflict, with Spain and France both claiming control over the region. The Spanish crown, under Ferdinand the Catholic, sought to expand its power and influence in Italy. In 1500, Spain and France struck a deal dividing Naples between them. This uneasy agreement would soon fall apart as both sides sought to expand their influence in the region. The battle for Naples continued for years, with both the French and Spanish forces clashing in a series of bloody battles. One of the most significant of these conflicts was the Battle of Pavia in 1525. This battle, fought between the French and the Spanish, ended in a crushing defeat for the French, marking the beginning of Spain's dominance over Italy. The French king, Francis I, was captured and held prisoner by the Spanish, and for years after, Spain would control most of Italy, including Naples. However, the Spanish were not the only power vying for dominance. The Holy Roman Empire, led by Emperor Charles V, also had an interest in Italy. In fact, Charles V was both the ruler of Spain and the Holy Roman Emperor, which made him a formidable figure. Throughout the Italian Wars, Charles V fought to expand his influence, and his army was frequently engaged in fierce battles against the French, who sought to weaken his empire. One of the darkest moments of the Italian Wars occurred in 1527, when the forces of Charles VIII's army, consisting mostly of mercenaries, sacked Rome. The city, which was not only the center of Christianity but also a symbol of Italian culture and wealth, was ravaged. The soldiers, many of whom had been unpaid for months, looted, raped, and pillaged the city for several days. Churches were desecrated, priceless works of art were destroyed, and the Pope, Clement VII, was forced to flee. The sack of Rome was a crushing blow to the Catholic Church and symbolized the fall of Italy into chaos and ruin. The devastation was not just physical. The sack exposed the fragility of the Italian city-states and the inability of their rulers to protect their land from foreign invaders. It also weakened the power of the papacy, which had once been one of the most influential institutions in Europe. This event marked a shift in the power dynamics of Italy, as the Papal States lost their grip on central authority and political control. By the mid-16th century, the Italian Wars began to slow down, but not because peace had arrived. The wars had become a complex web of shifting alliances and broken promises. France, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire continued their efforts to control Italy, but the cost of the wars was high, and none of the powers emerged with a decisive victory. By the 1540s, the French had mostly withdrawn from Italy, leaving the Spanish and the Holy Roman Empire as the dominant forces on the peninsula. Spain, under the rule of Charles VIII, had solidified its control over Naples, Milan, and the Kingdom of Sicily. The Papal States, though significantly weakened, were still able to exert some influence, especially in central Italy. Yet, the conflict continued to simmer, with smaller skirmishes between rival factions. In 1559, the wars finally came to an official end with the Treaty of Cateau-Cambrésis. The treaty confirmed Spanish dominance in Italy and marked the beginning of a long period of Spanish control over the region. However, the Italian city-states had been so deeply scarred by the wars that their once thriving culture, economy, and political systems were left in ruins. Italy, once a center of art, culture, and intellectual achievement, was now a land scarred by violence, poverty, and foreign domination. The Italian wars left Italy fractured, impoverished, and vulnerable to outside influences for centuries. The power struggles between the French, Spanish, and Holy Roman Empire decimated the land, leaving deep scars. Cities that had once been centers of Renaissance learning and culture, such as Florence and Venice, were left devastated by decades of war. The wars also weakened the Italian nobility, whose families had once ruled with great power and prestige. Many of these families were forced into poverty or exile, their lands and titles lost in the chaos. For the common people of Italy, the wars brought suffering, famine, and disease. Thousands of civilians were caught in the crossfire, and entire populations were displaced as armies swept through villages and towns. Despite the eventual peace, Italy never fully recovered from the Italian wars. The wars marked the end of Italy's political independence for centuries, as the region remained under foreign domination until the 19th century. The legacy of the wars was a divided Italy, a land of endless conflicts and shifting allegiances, where the dreams of unity and freedom seemed always just out of reach. The Italian wars were not just a series of battles fought over land, they were a dark period of betrayal, power struggles, and bloodshed. The wars shattered the dreams of a united Italy and left behind a legacy of destruction that would haunt the peninsula for generations. As European powers fought for control of Italy, the country's vibrant culture and cities were reduced to rubble. The Italian wars were a stark reminder of the price of ambition and the darkness that follows when the thirst for power eclipses the value of human life.